Okay, so last week before, somewhere in there, I gave you some instructions on sort of the history of web design. And I talked about something called floats and clears. And I also think I talked about Flexbox. So today, what I'm going to try to do is talk you through floats and clears and something called the clear fix. And we're going to see what we can do with that. So first thing, I'm going to create a new file, new file, and I'm going to call it floats.html. And since I'm going to also push this up online to GitHub, first I'm going to open up my index.html, and my buttons are probably less buttons than you have. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here. Don't mind if there is a dog clicking around in the background. LI, hopefully she won't bark too much. href equals quote. I'm going to go, so I saved it in project 3. So I'm going to go to project 3, floats greater than, and then floats example. Okay. And I'm going to save that. And I'm going to close that. And I'm going to go to Gropia 7 and open that. And I'm going to copy all of this. Command copy. I'm going to open floats. And I'm going to replace that with that. Head closes, style, okay. That allows me, then I'm going to change this to floats. And example of a float. Okay, and I've saved some copy. And see, wrong copy. Let me go back to Gropia 7. I'm going to copy some of the copy from Gropia 7. I'm going to copy everything from this H2. And see. Down to the heck. Always interesting. I'm just going to copy this information. Command copy. Go back to my floats. Add that. I'll delete this top section because I don't really need that. I just need some copy. Okay. View, refresh live view. So there I've got some copy. And then I want to add a couple of images. So I could just see, I've got a red arrow there. It means I've got a problem. I look over here, I've got a ending of a P element, and so I need to delete that. I'm also going to select all of this and Command Option or Control Alt left bracket, bring them in. So it's only about one tab indent. And I'm going to add 2 images. Now I could just add an image, but in this case, I'm going to take it a little farther. So figure, image, source, hope that's correct. Browse, images, Gropius, open. Okay. And big caption. Okay. And then we're going to go down here. And I'm going to add figure. Image. Oh, right. Something I forgot. So Alt equals image of Alter Gropius, black and white. Forehead. Okay. All right. So that's correct. Image, source equals browse images. We'll do the Bauhaus building because it's wide instead of narrow. Alt equals and then big caption E. Okay, so we look here, we've got some images and we built them out a little bit. So if you notice, even though this image is small, short, the copy is underneath. So in HTML, many of the structural items are what are called block items. If you go into their code or the master code, you will find that it is display : block. And if it's a block item, then it acts like it's 100% wide, even though it's not actually 100% wide. I could go up to my styles, and if I hit that and the curly bracket and outline 1 pixel solid red, you'll see, okay, the image doesn't come out, but the figure comes out 100%. The P element caption comes out 100%. This text comes out 100%. That comes out 100%, and so on. Okay. Also, we can tell the figure. You can tell that there's actually an issue with the figure, at least according to this browser. When you have a figure, it seems to have a margin on the outside, left and right. So I'm going to add structure. Figure. Margin left is 0. Margin right is 0. And you'll see that now these figures run all the way to the edge, just by zeroing out those particular structures, those particular margins. Okay, now the way, if we actually want this text to wrap around these images, then what we can do is we can add what's called a float to these. So if I go, I'm going to go to the second one, second image, figure. And I'm going to create a class equals quote. float right, and the width of the image is float right 300 pixels. And then I'm going to go up here and I'm going to create floats. So I can keep track of that, of things that specifically are involved in our floats. And I'm going to go down here, dot flush right 300. And the first thing I'm going to do is tell it to float right. Okay, and I'm hoping that it works. Maybe it won't. View, refresh live view. There we go. And it floats. So you'll notice that when we tell something to float, that it collapses our item completely. There's also, I'm going to go back here. I was hoping this wasn't true, but I'm going to just margin 0 the figure so it lines up nicely, because apparently there is also a top and bottom margin to a figure. Okay, so I told this to float right, and if you see, what's happened is that this image comes down and the text wraps around it. Okay. And since I didn't tell this one to float, it hasn't done that, but I told this one to float and it does. I like space around my items. So what I would also do with this is I would tell it to margin left 20 pixels, pink, and then margin bottom 20 pixels. There's nothing underneath it, but there might be at a later point, so I would want some more space. Okay. So hopefully that made some kind of sense. So this is 300 pixels wide. I could also create a float. In fact, I could just copy all of this. Or I could well, that oh, right. No, I'm not going to do that. So that's too complicated at the moment. Okay, so I've got a new float. I'm going to make its float 200. And I'm going to tell this, got it, width 100%. Max width is 300 pixels. And now I'm going to just copy this all over again. Command copy, Command V, FR 200, width 100%, max width 200 pixels. And now I'm going to go up to Monsieur Walter Gropius here and figure class equals, oh really? FR 200. There we go. Okay. So you see that it wrapped around, but it also created problems because it's deeper than this text here. Okay. We have, so floats are a little bit unpredictable because they do things like this. If you've created something that floats, anything that falls after it tries to flow into any space available, and things can get kind of strange. So it actually takes kind of a genius to be able to deal with them, but we'll deal with this the best we can. Now, the first option that we have is there's something called a clear. So I could go to, we've got an H3 early career, and I could come up here and go to, just a second. Okay, so what we can do is tell that H3 to clear, and I'm going to tell it to, I could tell it to clear right, and you'll notice that what happens is that this then clears any floated item that occurs on the right. I would probably really set this as clear both because it is a little bit safer. If I decided to move this image over to the left, then the clear would still operate. So does that make sense? If this is floated, what happens is that this item, so not only the image, but the caption and everything within the figure is taken out of the normal flow of the document. And when that happens, again, all of the items here, I'll just delete this, or I'll just zero it out. Everything then tries to flow up into the space, any space that's created. And if I clear it, then this becomes a block item that goes 100% across and drops down below this floated item. And in fact, if I had several floated items, it would still come down below the last floated item, the lowest floated item. Okay. Now, the other choice, which is often the better choice, is I'm going to take and delete that. And I'm going to create a section. Yeah, I'll call a section. And I'm going to run that section all the way around this first section, like that. Make this Command Option right bracket to bring that in. Okay. And you'll notice that even though I added that section, it didn't have any actual effect on my document. I can actually go up here and structure section. Oops, no capitals, just lowercase. Section padding 20 pixels. Background color orange. And then I get to figure out why it's not working. Says section, view, refresh live view. Well, mistake, misspelling. There it goes. Okay. Now you'll see that this floated item actually, so this item is not floated, that item is not floated. Those items, the section recognizes, but the section doesn't recognize the floated item because it's been taken out of the normal flow of the document. For some reason, the type recognizes the existence of the floated item, but nothing else. Well, and this does, it's not that they don't recognize it, it's just that boxes that are meant to contain this item don't actually contain it. So what we want to do, I'm going to go to New Share, and I'm going to go to Google Chrome. And then I gotta go to Window, W3 Schools. And what I'm going to look for is ClearFix. Hack. The ClearFix hack. Reload. Okay. Wrong. Okay. How to clear floats. So we used clear. Well, actually, I'll go back here for a second. So we've got this item. New share, Dreamweaver, share. Okay, we're back here on Dreamweaver. One way to get this to float to work correctly is I could actually create an empty P element. P with a non-breaking space. Okay, that hasn't affected anything yet, but I could add to this style equals Better yet, let's pretend that we're going to do this again. So class equals clear. Class equals quote clear. And I go back up here and I'll go clear and clear both. What did I call it? Class equals clear, and see that then clears this P element serves as a way of clearing this document. But there's actually a much better way. See, this is semantically, this isn't a semantic way of solving this problem because you're creating a paragraph element and you're telling it to be nothing. So that is not our preferred way of doing a clear or fixing the problem with this clear with this box. So I'm going to go back to Zoom and share, go back to there. Okay. Clear fix hack. See if I can get this up where you can see it. So they have one way. But there is a better way. The first way that they have here on W3 Schools, how to clear floats, the clear fix hack. They have the first way, but that's not the ideal way. The ideal way is the second choice, which is clear fix. And it says that after the object, it's creating a virtual object, and it's telling that virtual object to clear both. And then there's something also called display table, which I'm not actually capable of explaining. That is merely part of the ClearFix hack. And so new share, we go to Dreamweaver, we go to share, and we go up here. And instead of this, we're going to go B. Okay. So we've added a class ClearFix, and I'm going to attach that ClearFix to the section class equals ClearFix. And you'll see that immediately this item, this section now includes our figure, which is clear fixed. Well, anyway, I'm sorry. The figure, which is floated, is now encased, surrounded in our section, and we did it without having to add additional items that are sort of non-semantic, wasted space, additional coding that we don't need, however you want to call that. Okay. So I'm going to assume that didn't make a whole lot of sense, but it's the way this all would work. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to copy what we've created here. And I'm going to go back to our Gropius 7. And I'm going to duplicate it. Duplicate. Make it Gropius 8. Double click, Gropius 8. First thing I'm going to do is go, seems I've been here before. I'm going to go like that. I'm going to go under structure and call this figure margin 0. Okay, you'll notice that this figure just jumped over there. Now I'm going to type in and copy the floats that I created for the last time. And I'm going to go down. I've got a class float 300, float right 300, and a class float right 200. The 200 will be the narrower images. The 300 will be the wider images. And you'll notice that I've got the clear fix added in there. So hopefully this is all making sense. I now scroll down. There's figure class equals flush right 200. Think. For that, so that shouldn't have worked. But unfortunately, I've actually gone in and done some work in here. So what it should look like when you first do that is this. Okay. Then on the header, so this is the header element here. We're going to want to add a class equals, quote, clear fix. And now it contains the floated item. And then I'm going to go down to the next figure. And actually, I think I can go find figure. So that one's done. Scroll down till I get to there's the bullet points, there's figure. And this is a wider image. So class equals FR300. And you'll see that that's now, the text now wraps around that. And then class equals FR 300. And then finally, we'll have the MetLife building class equals FR 200. And if we scroll down here, we'll see that that then fits and works. What you'll notice on your web address down here is you'll notice that yours actually extends out of the box. What I did to cheat that. So between the A link, ahref, and where the A closes, we have our text that we can use to click on. And it doesn't really matter if that's perfect semantically, because it's not actually, this is the link that's being used to do the hyperlink. This is merely an indicator. And so I added a space. If I take the space off, it does that and extends out. If I add a space in there, it just happens to look better. Okay. And it doesn't hurt the link because that's not actually what we're using to call the hyperlink. It's just an indicator of what it looks like. And in fact, one could make this even shorter. I could get rid of that. And that even fits better. Okay. So that's how to add floats to this site. And we actually did a little bit more than that, because if you now pull this sideways, well, it doesn't quite work. There's one more thing we need to do. We're going to go to the top and we're going to add one more thing. Structure floats, we'll call this images. And we'll go img width equals that's wrong, colon 100%. And I think if I pull this down, nope, it doesn't still do that. I was kind of hoping it might. It says width 100%, max width 200 pixels. Typography. Don't know why it's not collapsing. Let me double check. Because my remembrance of it is that these images Objects. Has no size. There. That has no size. Might be the last one. Right. I'm going to take that off of there. And now, when I do that, now the images actually will resize. So if you're on a really small page, it'll continue to resize. And these would have done the same thing, only I wasn't looking at them. Well, let's see if we go up here. Yep, that resized. That resized. And that one resized. Okay. All right, so it's a little bit fancy. We used a similar thing when we created the container for this entire site. My coding has gone away. Just a second. I'm going to save this. Split, Command save. I'm going to close Gropius 8. I'm going to reopen Gropius 8. Now I've got my code back. And if we go back to our wrap, we'll see the width is 100%, max width 800 pixels. So we did a similar thing with our overall box that contains our site. That way the site doesn't get too wide. In this case, we're using it to allow the images to get smaller. If, for instance, we're looking at this on a cell phone. One other thing I wanted to mention is that, so we floated these images to the right. You can actually float them to the left. I'm going to create a style. Copy, paste. And this is float left 200. X with 200, float left. And then margin, we want the margin to be on the right instead of the left. And then I go down to the bottom. And instead of float right, I make this float left 200. Pink. And now that's floated over on the left-hand side. I had floated these all to the right up here because images actually have a direction. This image actually is looking in that direction, and it's better for the image to look towards the type, leading the eye to read the text. This one is also looking towards the left. And this also looks towards the left. If I were to put it, well, because he's sort of facing left, he's actually kind of looking straight out. Let's see what happens if I float left. Kind of looks like that. That might also be an acceptable way for this to look. Anyway, so it's usually a good idea to build several classes that allow images to be floated to the left or floated to the right so that you have some options. One other thing. It's maybe going a little too far, but you know me. That's what I like to do. If I look at this type, I think this type is a little bit close together, particularly given how much space we have down here. So I'm going to go under typography, and this is, well, let's first of all see what the copy says. So this is a P element within a header element. So I'm going to go back up here under typography, and I'm going to type header P. And there is a control called line height. And the default line height is 1.6. So if I do that, well, actually, maybe it's 1.4. 0.4. 2. Actually, that's probably right, 120%. So one can go and change it to 1.4, which is 140%. Gives us a little bit more room in here. One could also look at the captions. So big caption, line height, 1.4. And one can also go up to image and add margin bottom 6 pixels. And that gives us a little bit more room between our image and our caption. Could even make that 12. So some additional refinements to this site. And since I made the change to the figure caption, you'll notice that the same change is made throughout all the figure captions. And we might go back and 9. I kind of like it back at 6. Okay. Okay.